Bharti Airtel. Rahul Joshi, Head, Network Analytics, Trans and Automation, Reliance Jio. Pasi, SVP, Strategic Partnership and Ecosystem, Nokia. Harini Malik, Senior Director, Strategic Biz Dev Lead, Public Sector, Telco Healthcare and Retail, AMD. Sanjay Rohtagi, VP and Country GM, India and SARC, Arista Networks. And Vivek Dua, PGM, CNP, BSNL. And finally, we have KG Purushothaman, who is the moderator of this session, partner and head of technology transformation, KPMG India. Please give a huge round of applause, everyone.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us immediately after lunch. A very, very important session, relevant as well as contextual to everything that has been discussed today. As you know, there was a CEO conclave that focused a lot around what can be changed, what can be the recommendations from the industry today. There was also a press conference that the telecom minister had held, which covered a lot many points. Today, we are discussing a topic that is not going to just stop with the discussion, because it's going to be something that you will see continuing to evolve in the next few years. It's all about AI. Last few years that we've been covering this topic, we started talking about AI probably a couple of years back, when the concept of generative AI started coming in and how it was getting embedded, and assisted AI from a telecom perspective became very important. But as digital public infrastructure started expanding in India and the use cases started growing up, the need for actually revolutionizing the thinking around AI is emerging. We have a very esteemed panel here, as you know, experts from the industry, not only from an infrastructure space, OEMs, also service providers who are actually implementing it on ground along with the OEMs. You will listen today, and I had the opportunity to brainstorm with the panelists on their vision on how they are trying to drive this across different countries as well as within their own organizations, and it will be fascinating for us to actually have this intense discussion with them. But there are two other things apart from digital public infrastructure that is actually driving the conversation today. The second point beyond DPI is adoption. Okay, as compared to last year, we are going to talk about a lot of things around what is driving adoption of these use cases, skill sets, and inclusion in driving the entire upskilling of the manpower, both in India and outside India, and what kind of learnings we have. And finally, innovation at the core to actually make use of the infrastructure and drive it. And I think we have a very good panel that actually can talk about a lot many things than I can possibly fathom and drive. Maybe I'll start the conversation with the context itself, the setup itself. And Sanjay, I'll probably start with you. When it comes to AI and AI infrastructure, and there are obviously building blocks of this AI infrastructure that is making not only implementation a reality, but also the new use cases that are coming in, infusing AI into the workflows and the infrastructure becoming possible. What kind of evolution are you actually seeing when it comes to AI infrastructure, not only in India, but your experience from working globally?
Thanks, Puru. That's a great question. So I think, if you really look at AI, there are three things which is happening. So a lot of people are building AI apps. A lot of people are building large language models, small language models. And the third one, which ties everything together, is the AI infrastructure. So I see, things happening in India and overseas in all the three domains. I think, the foremost thing on the AI infrastructure is building the XPU, TPU, GPU capacity. So massive compute needs to be built, which you see Government of India is also building it, helping to build through AI mission. And while I was doing the reading, I was very, interested to see that this GPU as a service being offered in India is $65 rupees an hour, compared to US, which is $3 to $4 per GPU per hour. So I think India is getting the economics right. I think the second thing which I'm also seeing is that, what is required is the data engine, that the data sets needs to get trained very quickly, right? to feed all these large language models and everything. The third one is India needs to build its own LLM. So I think the good thing about Sarvam AI, and others, Krutrim, Bhasini and other things, which is all happening in India, which is a very good way of democratizing AI in India, right? The fourth one, which I'm seeing is, which Puru mentioned, massive skilling is required. A lot of people fear that our jobs will be lost. I don't think so. I think we have to augment our skills, and we will be performing maybe different tasks. So massive upskilling is required. And, and strong governance. Everywhere I have been, throughout the world, there is a strong governance to make sure that it's responsible and ethical AI being used. The use cases are all driving towards that. So I think that's where I see. So
Sure.
compute, storage, and networks are the key to tie this all together, right?
Thank
So
you.
I
Thank you,
think,
Sanjay. Harini, if I could come to you, I think it is almost logical for me to come to you next because Sanjay spoke about GPU. You drive a large amount of implementation with AMD on the ground, with a lot of data centers also adopting your technology. But there is a lot of usage that is expected from rural regions in India. Okay, the underpenetrated regions in India that are actually looking at data centers to come to the edge, devices to have compute at the edge. And I think as AMD, you are actually working with the entire ecosystem to make that possible. So, what are the things that you are seeing as those additional building blocks to the infrastructure that Sanjay spoke about to make this really possible? Is there a gap that you actually see in the current phase of implementation in India?
It's a great question, right? But India is certainly taking a very unique approach when it comes to democratization of AI. And in many ways, some of the key AI infrastructure that's needed is around the national fabric that needs to be built in for the AI infrastructure. You need to have an open ecosystem of products. You need to have, of course, networking, high-speed networking, as well as, tie this all together with a very skilled workforce. So if I break this down, when you look at what the national compute infrastructure really entails is being able to scale that all the way from hyperscale clusters, to the edge. And AMD does, has the right products to go do that. With our MI300X, we are able to actually provide the right level of performance, both from training as well as an inferencing standpoint. In fact, the world's largest supercomputers are run on AMD CPUs and GPUs. And in fact, I'm sure many of you have seen this in the news this week. It was, the partnership with OpenAI and AMD really takes that to that next level where we can provide that entire AI infrastructure from compute to networking, as well as system level scaling of the products as well. As you take that to the next level, you need to have the right level of data center compute. You need to have the energy efficiency in the data center to really go meet some of the sustainability needs that, that India is trying to put in place as well. And I have to, I'll be remiss if I don't say this, but if you look at some of the legacy infrastructures, because data center space is so critical, it's hard, it's expensive. And so when you look at these legacy infrastructures, and you take an example of 1,000 servers of legacy infrastructures, the AMD 5th generation EPYC can consolidate that to 127 servers for equivalent performance. So, 87% fewer servers, 70% better, power savings with using our products, which really comes into, some of the larger plays that India is trying to do with having the right AI infrastructure as well as building a sustainable product. And then networking, of course, is a key element because without that infrastructure, nothing really comes into play with AI. And having the right edge products, having the right performance per watt type of product to go actually have the same performance at the edge becomes very critical as well. And last but not the least, of course, having the right, being able to support this with the right level of skill set. And so we did release the AMD Developer Crowd and have about 100,000 hours of free, free hours that are available for developers to go and play with, the AMD GPU systems. And, an open framework becomes so important to go drive innovation, which is what we're all about.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Harni and Sanjay. So, in my discussion today, I covered infrastructure, but to drive that, I'm also going to cover, its adoption in India will not be possible without the involvement of startups and innovation. So, the next two questions that I'm going to cover is all about innovation. First, from an external perspective, Pasi, if I could bring you in, and then internal perspective, Vinod, if I could bring you in after that. Pasi, from your perspective, the role that for innovation to happen in this space, the role of startups and the operating models are undergoing a tremendous change when it comes to adoption of AI and implementing it in the infrastructure. What kind of innovation are you seeing? How are the startup ecosystem actually trying to drive innovation in this space?
It's a very good question. And I can approach it in quite many different ways, and I'm trying to put together kind of answer which can be answered in 5 minutes, what was given as a time envelope. It would easily take 30 minutes. But before going to that answer, congratulations for the stock price hike after the big news. Impressive. Wow. And thanks for this opportunity to be here. But to the question, I think it's not conditional how we have to enable, how the industry has to enable AI and access to latest AI compute for the startups as well. We all know how expensive the investments there are. It is unrealistic to expect that startups would be able to invest by themselves. So it is our responsibility as regulators, leading companies, to enable that access to startups. So saying it again, it cannot be conditional. It's an imperative. We have to find a way, and we can find that way. It's good for the whole industry that startups will be part of this mountain of AI innovation. We as existing companies, longer lasting companies, we need startups closer to us than never ever before. And the models, I think these AI clouds, AI data centers, they are very natural place where we can introduce now much more advanced capacity leasing or as a service models. We have technology, the industry together, to provide slices of capacity. We have to do it. We have to make it flexible, welcoming, affordable. For academia and startups, I think we should have hubs where they are able to test the AI models free of charge or by other contribution to the ecosystem. And hence I am calling it quite systematically as an industry ecosystem. It can be country specific, it can be enterprise segment specific, but we have to go to the same direction. I think it is our responsibility towards, for example, this fastly evolving India market. We have to get the full power of innovation out from India for the talents who are here today from university and going to be soon in the business life. So models has to be there. Is it as a service? Is it other way of orchestrating the capacity? But my point is that we have to make this available for all.
Yeah, thank you, Pasi. Vinod, if I could get you in, extending the point that Harini mentioned around sustainability and also the innovation that is coming from the discussion that Pasi spoke about. In your context, from a Nextra perspective, what is the strategic outlook that you are having when it comes to driving scalable, sustainable solutions on AI on your data center?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And happy to be part of the IMC now. It's my first event here, and it's overwhelming to some extent. But yeah, thank you. And I think a very important topic of sustainability has been brought here, and rightly pointed out by Harni also. The basic fundamental of trying to be more efficient comes from the core of how you design the chip on that. Everything is all peripheral to it. You can do cosmetic changes, but unless you really work on the technology of chip and the hardware for it, you're trying to only address a very small portion of the efficiency. So that is fundamental. Besides that, I think as an extra, we are really focused on the sustainability portion of it. All our AI data centers and subsequently existing data centers are going to be powered from renewable energy. We got our own commitment to see how much we can reach up to 100% of that. We are in a country which is blessed with a lot of renewable energy. So to an extent, that's something which we can always tap into. Plus, we are also driving something called in the data center industry called power utilization effectiveness, called PUE on that. PUE is the ratio of IT computing to the overall power on that. The next generation for a high processing computing, which is the need for all AI and going forward, we feel a vast deployment of something called liquid cooled servers on that. We will be using some of those technologies to bring down the PUE to a great extent. Liquid cool allows you to compute a large capacity within a very small physical size. Plus, it allows you to be far more efficient because the cooling technology subsequently changes on that. So I think these are the 2-3 areas which we're looking at. Besides that, obviously, we have got a lot of sustainability initiative in terms of construction of physical infrastructure, operations of physical infrastructures. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years. My first data center I built in 2006 for Tata Communication. I've seen the evolution of this whole space, and we are fortunately in a crux where the next decade is going to be substantially different from the last 20 years on that. Especially in terms of high processing computing, we feel there will be a huge demand which is going to come. As the demand increases, and we go ahead and put large amount of high capacity core computing data centers, also edge, the overall power requirement will be drastically increased. So we have to build all of our future data center keeping in mind that it has to be sustainable, it has to be efficient, and we have to be conscious about what we leave as an impact on the overall environment. So that is something which Nextra firmly believes, and we are committing. The fact that now Nextra has made a separate vertical to only address AI data center is a step to indicate that this is the area to focus, and this has got different parameters for us to judge as well as to take action on. So our data center of future will be highly efficient. It will be planned for high computing. It will be designed, the infrastructure will be designed, keeping certain future proofing, but it's very difficult to have future proofing for a large duration. We'll have to take that bet on that. I think with that few initiative, we think we have taken some very good positive steps here.
Thank you, Vinod. We covered infrastructure, we covered innovation, we covered startups, we covered sustainability. Good points. Now let's cover adoption, the crux of how it is getting implemented. And Vivek, if I could come to you first. When it comes to adoption, it's not an easy easy play. There are a lot of challenges that as telcos you must be facing, at data centers you must be facing. First is to actually implement the infrastructure itself and then making it sustainable, also build use cases over it. It's not going to be easy. Could you articulate some of these challenges that you have tried to address, overcome, and yet try to drive? I think we spoke about you adopting AI when it comes to customer use cases as well. So, what are those challenges that are coming through? And is there also some kind of a constraint when it comes to all the infrastructure components, including chipsets that are made available for you? And how are you trying to overcome that?
Thank you. So when you talk of challenges, my mind goes back to the data center days because the world will not change, only it's a different time series that you live with. I worked almost 10 years in data center, and when I joined the data center, it was Hyderabad. And I thought being in data center means to work with some storage and some servers around and great people, of course. And then some application stack was there, which is Oracle plus ABC, right? But within 2 months, I realized the biggest pain was the infrastructure, and within the infrastructure was the energy. Because once you work in data center, the lifeline is the electricity or the energy in the data center. If it goes off, you are in serious trouble. And if the servers are working, they keep generating a lot of heat. So the heat management, the electricity management, they happen to be the most critical thing. Frankly, I forgot all software for 3 months to see that my electrical infrastructure is in good shape. And for that reason, I visited so many other data centers run by Cisco's, and I remember NetApps and a couple of other people who had put up their great stuff in Bangalore and elsewhere to learn what are the good practices being followed for the right cooling of the infrastructure and similar things. So what I see here is that once we move to the AI, which is all about doing a lot of great stuff on the GPUs themselves consume a hell lot of energy, and you need to get prepared for that hell lot of energy required. Today, we talk of 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt. I saw people signing up for a 500 megawatt or even 1 gigawatt kind of a data center. But when I imagined that, I worked hardly in a couple of 100, 200 kilowatt data center, my mind really goes crazy that how people will handle this. So if I see the Indian ecosystem and the electrical grids that we have, I would personally prefer that we need to have clusters of data center which are connected through multiple gigabit or terabit pipes with each other, and each location then becomes a GPU or a CPU location to run so much of good AI stuff. But building up massive data centers and then expecting the grids also to deliver the same kind of energy would be at this point in time inviting trouble for oneself. So I imagine an immediate world where I have hundreds of 50 megawatt data centers all put together doing great stuff for the AI engineers and for the society in large. And yes, going forward, when my grids also get evolved, I am prepared for what today China or US are working on.
Vivek, can you imagine the situation 5 years ago that you would say someone that we are going to build 100 megawatt data center?
Yeah.
The people would have been asking, what have you been smoking or something? I mean, it would be unheard of. You would have been considered crazy.
Yes. But yes, the future is very clear. The kind of intelligent machines we are building, they are very much required. There is no doubt on that. And the way you see the conversational AI bots working along with humans, this is all a great future. And a lot of this we are already experimenting within our organization also. And it's really helping the customers to have a great service experience.
Yeah, thanks Vivek, and thanks Fasi for the add-on as well. I mean, just on a lighter note, you never seen this kind of a data explosion coming in with the kind of usage that you have both on B2C side and B2B side as well. And that makes me bring Rahul into the picture. Rahul, we've discussed a lot around infrastructure. We spoke about adoption. From your own perspective, there is a lot of data. The data is not only available within your respective organizations, there are wider amount of data that can be actually leveraged. There are national assets, digital asset infrastructure that can be leveraged as well. Do you think that there is a need from an industry perspective to leverage this infrastructure in a much better way? Are there any constraints when it comes to privacy or any other challenges that you see? Is there any constraint to come together to drive this AI infrastructure at a scale?
Thank you, Purushottaman, for having me here, and thank you. See, the topic is democratizing intelligence. When we think of intelligence, what comes to our mind? AI, machine learning models, algorithms, all that. But we need to remember that intelligence starts with data, right? Unless we democratize data, unless we liberate it out of the confines of our organization's boundaries, you can never democratize data and intelligence, right? I would say, to answer Purushottaman's question, there are three main tenets. The first and foremost that he mentioned himself is data availability. How many organizations have got generating and classification and structuring of data into their vision statement for the future? Okay. First of all, lot of organizations, lot of industry verticals have got data, but do they have the capability to mix, match, slice, contextualize it, structure it so that it can become AI ready data, which can be input to the machine learning models? Most of them do not. Geo, I belong to Geo as an organization, but this is a, let's say, we don't take me that I am trying to portray Geo in a good light here, but this is a fact that how many organizations in India have invested so much. Now, Geo has got 500 million customers. They generate 320 billion events every day. We capture all those events. We contextualize them. We are ready to mix them with our network KPIs, with our customer experience coordinates, with our device data, and we generate cumulative intelligence and insights out of it, which we in turn use in many internal and external use cases. How many organizations have this? So first tenet is, Purushothaman, is the data availability part and your capability to structure the data properly. The second is, as Vivek very rightly pointed out, that distributed compute is the way to go. AI and the intelligence is not something that has to be done in ivory towers in metros. You know, the intelligence that a farmer in Western Rajasthan needs is fundamentally different from the intelligence that a farmer in Northeast India needs. Unless your intelligence is scooping the context, the environment, the scenarios properly, and assimilating it into a centralized way of intelligence, you are really not democratizing it. Okay, this is, I believe, a very important tenet, and I'm proud to say that we at Geo are actually doing it. The third and most important part is your data governance layer and your intent out of it. Are you too casual about data? Are you sharing data pipeline just like this to anybody? Have you implemented privacy enhancements techniques and solutions? Are you anonymizing the data? I mean, innovation cannot be at the cost of individuals' freedom. This is a very important tenet. Now, these three tenets together, if most of our large organizations in the country, if they adhere to it and they invest around it, I believe we are on the right way forward towards democratizing intelligence.
Thank you, Rahul. Actually, what you spoke about was partly discussed in today's CEO conclave as well. And one of the things that actually came out was, as a country, should we also have a domain-specific LLM, which we can actually look at as an opportunity for us to drive, keeping privacy, anonymization, everything in mind. And and let me tell you some global use cases. GSMA has come up with a consortium very recently to drive some use cases from a regulatory perspective in Europe as an area. But they have left it to a joint venture of partners to actually come together as a consortium to come up with a thought leadership on how can they drive domain specific LLM. So something similar should be actually thought through even from an India perspective, and I'm sure that it could be a SLM from India, but it could be a use case that you can actually take globally as well. And
Fully,
what we're
fully.
talking about is just not network. We're talking about regulatory. We're talking about customer experience. Keeping the sanctity of your own customers, you obviously will not want to give away the advantage. But then there are certain national level challenges that you're trying to address, right? You're trying to address fraud risks as an area, right? Spam, anti-spam kind of challenges that you have. So, do you? I mean, I'm opening up to all the panelists. Do you see this as an opportunity from an Indian context?
Domain specific learning model, that's exactly what we are doing. I mean, within Geo, we have a mobility domain specific models that create their own intelligence, a retail specific in model that creates retail specific use cases. This is actually absolutely a way to go. But eventually, Purushottam, all these intelligence have to be correlated together to arrive at nation building use cases.
Right.
So Geo as a telecom domain vertical may have a, I think somebody mentioned federated digital twins. I mean, we are generating mobility or telecom network data. National Highway Authority has got data related to highway users. Retail guys have got their own data. All this data at a local context level has to be correlated together, and then we can bring amazing insights and intelligence to every far nook and corner of the country.
Sure.
India is such a data rich country, with 1.3 billion people. If you capture the amount of data and use AI, right, for the better good, whether it comes to healthcare, in rural, underserved regions like, you had previously mentioned, this is this is how we can actually use AI for that better good. And I do think that LLMs, even applications that we can use, for whether it's for agriculture, healthcare, and other parts of the rural portions where this is going to actually benefit. I think last year we unveiled iCare AI in 22 languages, and being able to go drive this to the folks in an easy to use experience will really help us in terms of being able to take AI to the next step here.
Sure.
I agree with Harini. I think domain-specific LLMs are the only way to democratize AI in India. It's such a diverse country, so many use cases. I think AI needs to become like UPI. That's when it is going to really drive productivity to the next level in India, and the GDP growth will scale. So I'm 100% with you, Puru, that domain-specific LLMs are the way forward.
And I can tell you from our work that we are doing, there are other industries within India that are already trying to work on this. If I take national infrastructure, there is Vision AI models that are being built to actually monitor highway implementation. Similarly, on the network side, we can build something. So there are many examples like that. But I mean, if I were to just come back to our topic on infrastructure itself, and try to address one or two other recommendations from this esteemed panel. One thing is we also spoke about the infrastructure rollout and some of the constraints that we have. We still have connectivity issues in rural areas. There are also untapped capacity that is both at the fiber level. We spoke about BharatNet, I think, today morning in another context. So are there such challenges that need to get addressed as well from an India perspective? Sanjay, if I could come to you, I think you spoke about optical fiber in our discussion earlier.
So I'm a firm believer that I think to unleash or democratize intelligence in India, you need to build AI backbone, right? Like, a national backbone which connects a lot of the large, which Vivek mentioned, lot of the large data centers being built. But in order to complement that, we will need to have edge data centers going into tier 2, tier 3 cities. And connecting all that, we need to have a AI-ready network fabric. And there are three approaches being taken right now. One is scale out.
Yeah.
network fabric, one is scale up. But what I'm really talking about is scale across. How do we connect all these data centers with a high-speed backbone? Something which what Lightstorm in India is trying to do, right? Using the power grid lines and the fiber to connect all these data centers. That's when the true power of AI will come out to the hands of users in India.
Sure.
Well said. You need to network the cloud.
Thank you. Vivek, if I could come to you, I think we spoke about also some of the challenges. Are there any policy related challenges as well that comes to your mind, or you could also cover. Are there any policy related challenges that need to get addressed? We spoke about infrastructure, untapped capacity. We spoke about focus. We spoke about skill. But are there any policy challenges that you're seeing on the ground?
Well, at a policy level, I would say there are very few because good number of policies are made by the government to unleash the power of AI.
Yeah.
It's more on the side of the right collaboration happening to get it done.
Sure.
So in the collaboration, I would say first looking at the government itself, what the central government would think, and at the execution level, the state government has to do, and go down to the Gram Panchayat level or the municipal corporation level. The whole chain of command has to get very clear about it, what is the mandate and what is the execution plan. There we run into a lot of challenges. So I would say not the policy, but the execution plan and the stakeholders appreciating the importance and doing it well. Coming from the investment perspective or the private sector, it will always be very eager to do it provided they understand that the ecosystem is healthy enough to get the things done. So I would say there are more initiatives being taken. You see the example of Gati Shakti,
Yeah.
which is the platform where the whole all set of agencies who are involved in the project execution collaborate together. That's one of the greatest initiative, I would say, in the infrastructure sector that government has taken. Because if you go back 10 years, the clearance from the forest department would take minimum 2 years, and the project, the ROI or whatever you talk, is all gone for a toss. So these things really matter when you plan big, and if you have aligned the stakeholders well, we are in for a great future.
Fantastic. So you wanted to cover something, or
Actually, not directly related to India, but I mean, tempting to say it here. I have been very deeply involved in the European Union AI discussion. And I have been involved over the years in many other technology discussions in European Union. I have never seen so much energy and dynamics in the technology discussion in Europe like it is now around AI. Everybody wants to get those European Union funded AI gigafactories. Technology players are getting together in a new way, what I have not seen before. So it is just an example how powerful the innovation and opportunity is around AI.
thank you, Pasi. I would want your views also on, is there any recommendations that you have or any challenges that you're facing from a policy perspective when it comes to implementation? Every state government has actually come up with a data center policy, right? But is it more friendly towards AI? Do you have any recommendations on that?
Yeah, this policy which is rolled out by few state government.
Yes, few state governments.
Few
right?
state, not all of them.
Yeah.
Took many years to come in force.
Correct.
I think KPMG and many other people were contributing to that. But unfortunately, this policy is not really ready for AI deployment on that. So this needs to be quickly tuned to ensure that some of the basic requirements of AI are met on that. METI from the central government is trying to push, but most of the regulation from infrastructure, whether it is land, whether it is construction permit, whether it's local pollution board, or it is power, it's a state authority. So sometimes the understanding of this need at the state level is still not up to speed on that. So I think few of the states have taken forward leap on that, and they have been very coming forward to make the modification. But I think from an AI deployment, I think that the scale of AI deployment is something which the authority needs to understand.
Sure.
We are no longer talking about 50 megawatt campus. We are talking about gigawatt campus.
Yes.
So the state government infrastructure for arranging that kind of power available is going to be one of the big challenges.
Right.
Some of the policy must allow the end user to tap into national grid to really get into such kind of large power evacuation. And some of the policies which are also which is hindering the cycle time to go to market, as rightly said, is some of the clearance like environmental clearance.
Right.
These are very green industries in terms of construction. Pollution is very less, but it takes equal amount of time to get environmental clearance. These are something which the government can look at it for specifically for industries which naturally are very green in nature. So data center is one of them to reduce the cycle time. The government must look at trying to put some data center parks. These are very large parks, say 200 acres, 300 acres, 400 acres with basic minimum infrastructure, which will have all the requirement right from network pipeline to the power infrastructure to
Correct.
the logistic. This is will be a good enablers for us. Now people spend so much of time to secure land, secure power. It really kills the speed which is required on that. I think if there is something which needs to be done quickly is try to look at how you can get data center parks of large with basic infrastructure of very high power and the network infrastructure is what I would say on that.
See,
and maybe to add on that, have a little bit more favorable in terms of getting renewable energy through various states on that, so that you are trying to
sustainable,
able to
make it sustainable.
sustainability perspective.
Fantastic. So from a lot of opportunity, stack, innovation, we spoke about adoption, we spoke about challenges, we spoke about policy changes that are required. We covered a lot. Rahul, before I try to conclude, Rahul, any closing thoughts on how are you going to build in, the much required intelligence in the hyperscalers? Because that's the only point that we didn't cover. Intelligence in the hyperscaler to address some of the end users, gig workers, citizens, end citizens. So we've covered data as one of the important challenges, but is there anything that you want to build over and above the infrastructure to build in that intelligence apart from the domain specific LLMs?
Absolutely. And can I elaborate with a short example?
Yeah.
I mentioned that the contextualization of data is very important. Are we really empowering the last mile guy? Are we enabling him? Are we ending data arbitrage? Okay. Unless you are not doing it, your intelligence you can keep in your ivory towers forever and it will not do any good in the life. Okay. What we did at Jio, okay, we mix device data, network KPIs, customer experience data, alarms, faults, outages. We slice them, contextualize them. Every day, across our 1,072 offices, we have, Jio works like that, it has got 1,072 Jio centers across India. Each center has got a senior engineer. Every day, every engineer across the 1,072 offices receives a prioritized action list every day morning with top 10 actions that will contribute the maximum to the customer experience in that area. And the guy, he is enabled, he doesn't have to work across the complexity. It's all, the intelligence is built besides, and you are right there and you are addressing him directly. You are showing how the problem is solved. This has to be very well integrated in any system, any software that we design. This has to be, that's where democratization will come in.
Sure, thanks. I can open it up to the audience if you have one question to ask, or then I can, yes, please.
Hello. That was loud. Meri Helle, semiconductor entrepreneur from Finland, my third company on the way. I'm talking about the energy efficiency in computing. At the moment, our brain with the 20 watts, we can have amazing capacity. If you use memristors, you can have the same capacity with 20 kilowatt. But if you use the silicon-based chips, that's a 20 megawatt.
Right.
So what should we do to have the energy efficient chips?
Anyone?
Well,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I would say, like the human mind, you need to cool down that quickly.
I think, energy efficiency really starts from the design of the chip. And that's why it becomes very important, to take that consideration as you design the chip from the get-go. I think I spoke about, what we do in terms of trying to go drive energy efficiency. A lot of it is around infrastructure consolidation, right? Like I mentioned, we have 192 cores, 384 threads in one chip. It's unheard of. I mean, being in this industry for over 2.5 decades, I still remember when we still got a dual core in the market. It was in the early 2000s, right? So this is only achievable because of the design considerations. So efficiency, it needs to be built in. And as you go do that, you can go drive the infrastructure consolidation and some of the challenges that Vivek mentioned in terms of trying to bring that data center or keep the performance of that data center within what you need to go drive AI, all starts falling into place. But the energy requirements are only going to go up, right? Because we are only going to be scaling up from here in terms of AI.
No, I have troubles with this one, but I think we need to change from silicon to compound semiconductors, or we go to memristors or some other means of computing. So we will be needing silicon. Silicon will be there, but it is burning too much energy. So we need the transistors that generate less heat, and we need a better substrate that convey the heat away.
I think that is a good challenge for the whole industry.
Yeah.
Let's build it. Start here in India.
And I think the days of quantum computing are not very far. And the way we compute things is going to entirely change with the philosophy of computing in the quantum environment. So that's one area which is very promising. And I see my energy requirements also, to my understanding, probably coming down with those kind of implementations.
I have a quantum background myself. I was working with superconducting nanoelectronics. So what we have computing, we have communications, we have energy conversions and sensing. Everything is done with the chips. What can you do with quantum? What problem does it solve? Maybe it can solve some quantum chemistry, but it doesn't. We don't have cryostats in our homes to cool down. And quantum computing, what does it solve? It doesn't do our computing. We will be needing our chips from AMD or somebody else.
I think what we can try and do now is try and conclude the session. If I have one suggestion from each of the panelists on what would you like to see different in the next 1 year before we actually have you back on the panel when it comes to AI infrastructure and its adoption in India?
So I would personally like to divide the problem into two parts. One is building up an infrastructure which is for the AI. And second is the environment for my young minds who want to work and bring great results on the LLMs, the conversational AIs, and let them really open up their mind and do great things. So as government already has, and gentleman next to me told that you get a GPU at a rate of 65 rupees per hour, those things will really unleash the power of AI, where the young minds start building up their own native LLMs tuned to the culture of the country, and then see that this is deployed probably in future on a homegrown infrastructure. Till that time, I would prefer that a cloud-based AI infrastructure is made available to them to really explore the world of AI.
Sure, thank you. Sanjay?
I think from my point of view, I'll echo what Vivek said. I think sovereign capability is key. I think that's which will unleash the power of real AI to India. Second one is that, being selfish and coming from a networking company, there is an art and science on how you design the AI networks or the AI fabrics. So, at Arista, we are running the top hyperscaler to top enterprise run on Arista. So I think we are there to help and support, but think it through on what we are trying to do and what best network fabric is required to drive all this humongous traffic, AI traffic, which is going to hit you.
Thank you. Harini, any closing thoughts?
I think we need to have a national compute fabric in India. The brightest of minds, are out here. Open it up to the university students, have them go design, AI for the actual real world solutions that you can build, for your people. I think that would really open up, the proliferation of AI in India.
Thank you. Pasi?
I would put it in the two pockets, very much along the lines of what Sanjay said. We need fabric, we need network that is able to deliver the outcomes of these mega AI heavy data centers. It's a must. Otherwise, we are going to have compute isolated somewhere and we are not able to get the outcomes for the consumers of that workload. It's a must. Second aspect is that we have to get together as industry, as different players around the industry, much more open, much more welcoming for the innovation and recognizing each other's needs. Be less selfish, but really drive this for the good of the evolution and innovation of India.
Thank you, Pasi. Rahul?
I would love to see separate industry verticals working together along with their respective ministries to
Already financial services started working together, I think.
I would restrict the statement to only the separate industry verticals, and if they can work out a common mechanism to share data anonymously, that could do a lot of good for the country.
Thank you. Vinod?
Yeah, coming from the infrastructure, my mind only thinks on the few things here on that area. I think the need is to really, for both the state government as well as the central government, to reduce the whole cycle of the build cycle by facilitating the approval timelines. And that's something which is a key differentiator between us and some of the Asia-Pacific regions.
Yeah.
We take a little bit more time than the rest of the country. So this really is one which I think is low-hanging and can be easily done. Yes. Second is, there is the scale of AI deployment, especially from data center, that knowledge needs to be dissipated so that people understand that we are now talking about gigawatt campuses and all. These two things, right, I think, will set the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the panelists, and thank you for this engaging discussion.
I would just request Puru to please hand over mementos to our panelists.